The false hope will come in a minute, more specifically after we talk about how these 3 events fared for the Oceanics. Now, I didn't want to bore you with even more disappointment, so to sum it all up, like the last part, they kept doing the opposite of what you're supposed to do. Block pushing, they basically ran as one marble rather than continuously bumping forward, which stalled their momentum. In the biathlon, they actually got a solid finish at 6th, but the way they got it was less than ideal. They made it past the heats with ease, but did a big no-no in the semis, bumping the walls. They finished last in that race.
Have a great burst of speed to take the lead from them, and Oceanics fall all the way back to 4th. Running out of time to advance, they're not going to. Raspberry Racers come across along with the Jungle Jumpers, the O-Rangers, out with the Oceanics as well.
Bumping walls is also something you don't want to do in hurdling, but the Oceanics couldn't help themselves. So in that stretch, they only recorded 16 points. Surprisingly, however, they weren't in last. The Pinkies held that spot with 9 fewer points. These 2 events would change a lot though. The maze was good for the Oceanics. They got very lucky in the heats where one finisher was enough, and in the semis, they were the only team to have all 4 cross the line, meaning they had a chance and a medal. A 75% chance to be exact. So how'd they do? You probably already know.
This is going to take some number crunching. Who gets gold in the maze event? Add it all together as we pan our way up the course, a difficult one, and it's the Hazers! The Oceanics missed the podium! Oh my goodness!
The race for last was now neck and neck, with the Pinkies only a point away from 15th. So what was the next event, you might be asking? Well, my friends, it was the dirt race. Now, we already know what the Pinkies did. They got gold, while the Oceanics did not finish in the semis. This meant the Oceanics were last, once again. The manager expressed his disbelief, saying, quote, "We didn't expect being ahead of the Pinkies much of an accomplishment until we weren't." Coach Ty didn't even speak on the matter, as he was fined for not attending the post-event press conference. It couldn't get much worse, right? I don't even have to answer that question. All I have to say is that the next event was a water event. Tide liked their odds in rafting for 2 reasons. One is that he liked how they would be the only ones on the course, as Tide said, quote, "No snarl to pump us out of the way." Second reason was up to this event, the only water event the Oceanics placed inside the top half in was the quartet diving back in 2016. Why is this important, you might be asking? Well, that event was a team event, the only team water event they've been in until now. But like I said earlier, this year only got worse. Rafting would be the same as almost every single event we've covered. They did the opposite of what you're supposed to do. This part right here, they did a meaningless 360 and then they kept bumping the walls. 11th place, another bottom 6 finish in a water event.
And a little splash gets the team members wet. That's okay. Ooh, they nearly go sideways and get caught perpendicular, but they make it across the line, no penalty.
Tide was supposedly so angry about the incident that manager Reef had to step in and pull Tide aside. What he told him didn't last long. Quote, "Don't ever do that again." Tide would end up doing it again. Going into event 13, the Oceanics were no longer playing for a title. They were the first and only team eliminated. Morale from both the team and the fans were at an all-time low, but somehow, the Oceanics would go lower. In the next event, the marble that finished in last would be eliminated. So the first marble to be eliminated last would be, well, last. C was the one to enter into this event. Right off the starting gate, they would fall to last, and C would never recover as they slowly solemned their way down to last.
Is that the Oceanics? Is that the Thunderbolts? We'll have to see. I'm looking farther up the course, though, as another blue marble fighting back to try to stave off elimination, and that one will be the Oceanics. It was the Thunderbolts that came across first and will advance to the final, and it is the Oceanics who are eliminated, finishing in dead last.
C was heading back to the locker room, with Coach Tide following quickly behind, fuming with rage. Manager Reef cut off the coach and pulled him aside and fired him right on the spot.
I think they're going to fire the coach on the spot. Tide has been fired. The head coach of the Oceanics in shame.
This is the first time a coach had been fired in JMR's history. Ocean commented on the event saying, quote, "It's been a rough year for all of us. Tide always wanted us to win and sometimes would go to extreme lengths to get there. Clearly this year, it hasn't worked out. That part of the sport is out of our control though, and we just have to move forward and try and end the year on a positive note." Lagoon was hired after the event and would serve as the interim head coach, although they eventually became permanent. The Oceanics were now out of podium contention. With 3 events left, the Oceanics could only play for a good end to the year. But the first one of those 3 events revisits the most haunting element. With Lagoon only having a few days between events to prepare, not much was expected from the Oceanics. Their last 2 water events were absolute duds, and they now had a chance to make up for it in surfing. But it almost seemed like the Oceanics were giving up at this point. Why do I say that? Well, Bay was the one chosen for this event, and Bay has never competed in an individual event up to this point. They were matched up against none other than the Raspberry Racers, one of the greatest Marble League teams ever in the thick of their championship season. And well, you can probably guess what happened next.
Will it be enough to make up for a relatively short ride on the board? No. Oceanics, another bad result. No medal here.
Bay placed 14th, officially closing out the final water event of the year. In 3 water events, the Oceanics scored 10 points. In a year where they trained specifically for the water, where they chose to host water events, they fell flat every time. Collision came up next, and this is when the fans started to let their frustrations be heard. There were talks of fans possibly boycotting the event by not even attending. A host team playing in front of no fans. That's what this year has come to. And well, the plan worked for the fans, with only a few peppered in the empty seats. Stands that were once sold out for the first 9 events before the Marble League even started were now left empty in despair and ruin. The Oceanics didn't even make those few fans happy, as they lost the first 2 matchups, going 1-2 and failing to advance out of the group stage. With the conclusion of Collision, the Oceanics were now locked into 16th and couldn't even move up to 15th. That's how far back they are. Few fans showed up to the finale. With their fate already sealed, what was the point? It seems like the Oceanics even felt this way too, as they poetically finished dead last in the sand rally. The fans marched onto the competition area, showing signs of Noceanics all over, completely overwhelming the celebration of the Raspberry Racers. And that's it. This was a team that came in with high expectations after their first podium and being named hosts. But not only did they fail to deliver, they completely broke. With coach firings and failed water events, the Oceanics put up one of the worst seasons ever. They never recovered once, never gave their fans hope. It was a season of constant punishment that ended with a final drop of disappointment for good measure. The 2019 Oceanics will be remembered forever for drowning in their very own Marble League.